Who would win in a fight, Christmas or Easter? Let's talk about it. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Bite Size Theology, a ministry of Springfield First, where we tackle big ideas around faith, one bite at a time. My name is Allison Means, and I'm in a different spot today because I am joined by both Roger Grimmett and Nick Jordan, and we are talking about Christmas versus Easter. Why do we give so much more attention to one when they are both important? So let's talk about it, guys.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun one to talk about.
Fight.
That's right.
Sounds good.
Who's Team Christmas and who's Team Easter?
I mean, that is a joke question, but I kind of am Team Christmas.
Oh, interesting.
I think it is because I kind of grew up in a church where we would talk about the cross a lot. Mm-hmm. And obviously we should. It's all over the scriptures. It's how the early Christians talked about what Christ had done. It's central. It's important. It's, in every kind of boiled down, what has Christ done? Mm-hmm. And Christmas is only in 2 of the Gospels, so there's that. But I feel like because of that, I needed a deeper understanding of Christmas when I got a little bit older. So I think that kind of made it a little bit richer over time, or maybe just a sense of maybe I'd missed something that others had, so that's. But obviously, that's not really the real answer. I certainly see them as like these almost like our faith is in tension, held by these two poles that we need both of them, and they inform how we understand the other.
Yeah, and I would go along with that. I mean, you can't have Easter unless you've had Christmas, right?
Right.
I mean, because the incarnation is crucial to our faith, but so is the resurrection. And it's great that we're tackling this topic because I've really never thought about setting them against each other because they're complementary of each other. Mm-hmm. But as I think about Christmas, I think of the buildup as more of a cultural thing in regards to what happens in society.
Oh yeah, we talk about the Christmas creep, we don't really talk about the Easter creep,
right. Right, but by the same token, like when it comes to Easter, we have some very powerful and meaningful services just like we do at Christmas. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, if you look at the Bible in the early church, when they proclaimed the gospel after Jesus rose again and ascended into heaven, they did not preach the incarnation. They preached the cross and the empty tomb. Yep. That was their message.
That's true.
However, we know that because of Jesus and his incarnation, they embodied that in their own lives, obviously, and so that fed into the cross and the resurrection. So I think they're complementary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think of that in terms of almost like I was saying, my own development of like understanding the cross. Maybe I say understanding as if we understand it, but like the sacrifice of Christ on our behalf and taking the sins of the world in mine, that I felt like I received that message or internalized that message earlier. Mm-hmm. And I sometimes think of like the development of doctrine or the development of the church as kind of a growing up sometimes. And I don't mean like a straight line, because certainly there were things that came out in my human adolescence that weren't, pretty or whatever that came along, but kind of growth over time. And so thinking about when does the incarnation become so important? It's when they start talking about who was it on that cross? Yeah. Was it really God? Or did it just kind of look like it? If it was God, then who died? Was it a human being? And if it was a human being, then how does that have anything to do with God? Those sorts of questions. And so it does have to build on what's come before. And it seems like the church, as it's making its way through those first few centuries, is trying to determine that sort of thing.
And Nick, is that kind of where we get the idea of Jesus being fully human and the incarnation, and then fully God expressed through the resurrection.
Yeah, absolutely.
But certainly Jesus didn't deny his humanity and didn't deny his divinity, either one.
Right. Yeah, it was almost. Yeah, I sometimes find myself wondering, like, as much as I like to read theology or talk about theology, it's clearly not required to be a faithful Christian. Like, you can be a fisherman, you can be a tax collector, you can be this, you can be that, you can, so it's not kind of added on. It's just kind of like, have we grown in understanding over time, I guess maybe is how I think about it.
I remember reading, and Nick, you and I, and Allison, you having attended Bible college and stuff like that, reading so much on the incarnation and resurrection. And I remember reading, and I can't even tell you who it was, on the focus upon the resurrection gives validation to Jesus' life in the incarnation, because it proves that in fact he was who he said he was. And that's why the resurrection is so crucial and central to our faith, because it proved everything that he said and did when he walked the earth. And that makes total sense to me, as you kind of look at it from that perspective.
Yeah. I started thinking of this kind of metaphor. We've been preaching through the Gospel of John all through Lent, and John's the one where Nicodemus comes to Jesus in the middle of the night, and that language of "you must be born again." And I started thinking about that. We normally will talk about that because anybody who's hearing the gospel has already been born once. You know, if you're here, you've been born.
You've been born. Surprise.
So you need to be born again, or born from above. And that second birth, I wonder if that kind of helps me to understand the resurrection as well. That if you are born again, it means you've already been born before, water and the Spirit. And if you are looking at Christmas and Easter, these are the two births of Christ. Yeah. He's born of Mary into the world, and then he's born he comes back from the dead. Yes. And so it's like new life and new life, yes. new birth. It's different for Jesus because he existed before he was born, and he, in resurrection, he didn't die again. But I do think that helps me to think about the connection between Christmas and Easter, that we hold the two together.
I love your focus upon Nicodemus and spiritual rebirth. I think that is so important, because then it sort of made me think of an upcoming series we're going to do in Colossians, wherein I've been reading in Colossians 3, if you have been raised with Christ, set your mind on things above, not on things on the earth, for you have died and your life is hidden with Christ in God. And I feel like as I think about that verse, I think about that's both the incarnation and the resurrection. Yeah. So it kind of goes together. It's sort of both and, it's not either or, in my way of thinking anyway. So I think that is so cool. One of the things, Nick, I was mentioning to you that I've got this book on, and we tend to, as we're getting ready, this is the couple weeks before Easter, obviously, so we're focused in that regard, but a quote that I thought was really good when it came to knowing we were going to be doing this topic, and it was on incarnation and resurrection. It's from a guy by the name of Orlando Costas, and he is a missiologist. And he once stated that incarnation without resurrection is only half a mission, which I thought was interesting. It has to be more than mere solidarity with humanity, which is incarnation. It has to impart the hope of the resurrection through personal, vocational, and communal transformation. So I like that image of incarnation as being solidarity in suffering. Yeah. And the three of us do that when we are with our people and they're suffering, but then the suffering then needs to lead to transformation, which is resurrection. Yeah. So I kind of like that idea. That kind of helped me in thinking through this theme that we're talking about.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It seems like that's part of when Paul is talking about the significance of the cross. Like Paul is well aware, there have been a lot of prophets who have died before. And if Jesus is just a prophet or just a good man or just a good teacher, then like he's dead. But if he didn't come back, then what are we doing?
What are we doing? Yeah.
We're beyond hope because we're hoping in hopelessness if he didn't come back.
Yeah, because if Christ has not been raised, your faith is futile. He said, and you are still in your sins. Yeah. So therefore, we need the resurrection and not just the incarnation. Yeah. So for sure. Yeah. Do you think that people in our churches think more one way over the other? Do you think that they believe that the Christmas message is more central to the kind of the fulcrum of Christianity, or do you think, they just kind of go together? Or?
I'm going to be really real. I don't think people have thought that deeply about it most of the time. I think they're like, these are both important.
These are both central.
I think we are, we work in the church, and so we think about this stuff a lot more. And some people may struggle with that, but I think it's culturally much more of the culture puts all of this pressure on one and not so much on the other. Yeah. But I don't know that individuals would say, yes, Christmas is more important, or yes, Easter is more important. I would hope that we understand that they have to exist together to for our faith to make any sense.
Yeah, I do it makes me wonder if we were to take all the songs and hymns that we sing around here over the course of a year and see how many times the word cross shows up versus reference to the incarnation. I think we have Christmas music, but we don't think about cross language as Easter music. It's just
music.
It's just music. Yeah.
I think you're right.
But I do think, the New Testament does seem to talk more about the cross and the resurrection more. So it seems like we come by that honestly, but I do wonder if there's kind of more depth to go there. And that one of the reasons we thought about this question as worth wading into is kind of the cultural piece of Christmas stuff shows up. When do you put up the tree or the lights or buy the gifts and all that sort of stuff? When do you start watching, the Hallmark movies and all that? When is it okay to listen to the music and all that sort of stuff? And so that kind of puts the focus on the culture and how Christmas has been commercialized. Charlie Brown was telling us that 50, 60 years ago. Right. But I wonder how much we do it as well, because it would be weird to us to sing Christmas songs in the middle of the summer. It would feel weird because it's got this.
It's tied to this one season for us. Yeah.
Why is it so strange? So it just makes me have wonderings more than let's start having Christmas carols all the time. It's not that. It's just it makes me wonder.
And yet it kind of feels like, or at least from my perspective anyway, you might have a different take on it, that with the seasons of Lent leading up to Easter, they feel a little bit more important, maybe that's not the right word, than the weeks of Advent leading up to Christmas. It just seems like we give more attention to them, or people are thinking more deeply about Lent. Okay, what do I need to give up? What do I need to take on?
I think it's more serious.
Yeah. I think you're right. More reflective.
I think when we think about Advent, we think about it's joy, 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 he's coming, right? And when we're going through Lent, it's more think about he died.
Somber.
It's much more somber. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true.
I would say the attitudes are different.
And that's why I like this year, because you referenced this earlier, Alice, in reference to our current series, or Nick, in regards to the Gospel of John, in that we're not, and I said this in a sermon, we're not just putting that all on Holy Week, where for me anyway, it's tough to absorb all that in 1 week, where when you stretch it out over a period of 6 to 7 weeks, then it feels like I'm more grasping or being grasped by the story than during the actual week itself. And I think so this year anyway, it really has felt like it has been, at least for me, much more meaningful than it has been in the past, in terms of Lent Easter.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think that's true. I do think that some of that is like a Protestant, some of the like Advent has its own feeling and Lent has its own feeling. But I know like in the Orthodox Church, there's more of a sense of like Advent is kind of like Lent for Christmas. Right. That is the season of preparation, even of fasting.
Yeah.
And we just don't do that. I don't know that we need to, but that certainly is this ancient pattern that they've taken up and that they kind of witness to. That I do think that there are a couple things that we do take from that, but one is like a season of generosity. Certainly fits within like a spiritual discipline, but we don't even think about it as a discipline. It's kind of like a joy of giving kind of thing, rather than a sacrificial or that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Certainly things to really ponder and think about for sure.
Well, you guys, I don't think there's an answer to who would win in a fight. I think it's yes and. I think our faith doesn't really exist without both, that they are both important.
Yes, absolutely.
But thank you guys for joining me today and for talking together about this. It's been nice to have you both here and to sit in a different chair this time. And thank you for joining us as well. And we will see you next time on Bite Size Theology. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Bite Size Theology, where we take big ideas about faith and break them down one bite at a time. We hope today's conversation has helped you grow in your understanding and sparked new insights on your journey of faith. If you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. And as always, if you have questions or you want to dive deeper into today's topic, feel free to reach out. We would love to hear from you. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep growing.